أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على رسولنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأتباعه وسلم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. Inshallah, we will continue with the 17th word. And so last week we started talking about the verse that which is on earth we have made as a glittering show for the earth, in order that we may test them as to which of them are best in conduct. Verily, what is on earth we shall make but a dust and dry soil. And another verse, what is the life of this world but play and amusement? So we talked about that last week. Today we are going to study a slightly different text in style. It's going to be somewhat poetic, but similar in nature in terms of the topic that's being studied, inshallah. And let's see how this will resonate with our audience. And we are looking for somebody to read.
Can you just last week when we were discussing, so the last question that Rahman asked about how do we actually, when we talk about ihsan, how do we actually talk about ihsan in terms of yesterday that topic?
Can you translate it in English as well? For
Microphone.
Being the best of. So we were talking about last week. We were talking about being the best of ourselves. How do we translate that in terms of the topic we were discussing? So can you just explain that? I sort of actually forgot and didn't actually get the point.
Okay. So generally, when we are talking about ihsan, and it was surprising to me, to be honest, when I first came to US, ihsan is being translated as perfection, because I heard about it differently before. But anyways, let's take it as perfection. The connotation that it was being presented in the Jummah khutbahs when I was first here was, whatever you're doing, do it in the best way. This is how a Muslim should be like. So then that makes me ask the question of, yes, I should do it in the best way, but how you do something the best way differs according to how you define what best is. Like, for instance, I was giving the example of homeworks to Abdul Rahman. Like, I hope it's going to be relatable. When you're making a programming assignment or coding in general, there's a proper way of coding. You do, I don't know, indentations perfectly and do all the comments and whatnot. This is what would be like perfection in there, or even you split it into multiple files and whatnot. But when I'm teaching my class, I would say this is not the point that I'm trying to teach with this class. So just the part that I'm trying to teach you is do problem solving. So if you do this, if you that part of it perfect, doing anything on top of it would be waste of time. Because, I mean, would you call it perfection of doing it, or you're wasting your time, which you can use for another purpose? In the same token, when we are talking about this life, let's say you're doing your job or whatever, doing your job perfectly as if you are living a single life, versus as this life is a training for an eternal life, and my job is for that purpose, then the description of perfection changes, totally changes. Because in one, you're thinking as if that's all you have, so you're trying to perfect it as much as you can because it's going to bring you more money or glory or whatever. In the other one, you're saying that, what am I supposed to learn from this job? I will invest that much on it, and I wouldn't busy myself beyond it, because then I can spend my time or effort to something else. So this is why when we are perfecting, the question is, from which perspective am I approaching that? So because of that reason, perfection of doing or being best in your job would differ and I think should differ and would differ, whether you're an atheist or you're a believer or you're whatever you are. So then the question becomes, from a Muslim point of view or Quranic point of view, what's going to be a proper way to be the best in your job? Intentionally, I'm not using the term best of you because it's super loaded. But when it comes to being best in your job or best in your like marital relationship or your friendship, what does it mean to be best? So that would then mean, and this was part of the conversation, if I'm going to tie it back to today's discussion at Drexel. Today at Drexel, we were discussing the verse, indeed, Allah purchases from believers their selves and their property in exchange for paradise. So the Creator is talking about making a deal with us. So he is buying what he already has given to us in exchange for giving us back paradise. And we were discussing, how would you sell part of your property is your eyes, for example. How do you sell your eyes to your Creator, right? Because right now, Arslan is working for a company. What's the name of the company? Confess. Like you are selling your eyes, and I as well, your brain for 8 hours per day to your employer. Like you're looking at problems from your employer's point of view. And if you were, for example, a security officer, you're selling your eyes to, let's say, if I was a security officer at Drexel, I would be selling my eyes to Drexel for 8 hours, or renting or selling, however you would like to call it. But I'm selling my labor pretty much. How can I sell this to my Creator? This is where perfection lies, because this is where we are distinguishing it. How do I sell the job of my eyesight to my Creator? Depends on with which lens do I look at things. I can look at the same thing as, I don't know, I was giving, since I gave those examples before, I will repeat them. I remember once I collected a plum. We were in a summer retreat as we were discussing these topics, so the ideas were fresh. I take this plum, I cleaned it up on my cloth. I was so much excited with how beautifully it's painted, how carefully it was painted. It was red, but it was not just red, like paint bucket type of painting. It was red, but like yellowish shades of red, yellow, green. There were dots and whatnot. It was a like masterpiece of art in terms of painting. So I would say, oh, this tree really, but I was immersed in it. I busied myself 5 to 10 minutes on that plum. I said, the maker of this plum must be the maker of the sun and all the colors. This is how you sell your eyes and how you perfect your eyesight properly. But if I was a materialist, I would say, oh, this is because of these genes, that genes, and whatnot. Let's assume still I am doing research on it. But my conclusion is being that, this is by chance, this happens by this or that mechanism, but no maker, no doer. So the second one is not perfection at all. I worked a lot, but I messed it up at the end. So, but the main point, even if I was to make hours and hours of research in the lab, the outcome would have been, maybe I'm going to be more convinced to say that the maker of this plum really cannot be chance. It's going to be the Creator. But after my 10 minutes of exploration of the plum, I also said, there's no explanation. So this is where the perfection is. As much as I arrived to the conclusion, I'm not saying that the two are going to be the same. Maybe in the laboratory, I'm going to get more convinced. I'm not claiming otherwise. But this is the point. Once you get that point, then you are done. You don't need to go any further. Then since you are done with the plum or whatever the cells of plum, then go and explore lettuces or, I don't know, eggplants. Don't try to say, oh, no, I have to go deeper and further. I would say perfection is, the goal is finding paradise. And I'm using paradise in the sense of rather than getting paid temporary money, because this is what we do. We sell our eyes to getting some momentary joys. and then those joys bring more pain, and this is done. But my creator says, no, don't sell your eyes to your ego, sell it to me, meaning don't employ your eyes for your egotistical reasons, but employ your eyes for my perspective. Then I'm going to give you an eternal paradise, which means I'm going to give you an eternal satisfaction rather than those momentary satisfactions. So, I mean, going back to your question, perfection, how can I become perfect or do ihsan or best of me or whatever? This is the flavor that it's being asked. To the extent that I realize what am I made for, the description of being perfect in this sense changes. And since the verse was saying that sell your property to me, and it's very interesting, the word that Quran uses, as if it's your property, although as the Quran says, and which is a fact, I am entrusted with it because like there were babies here, like Huda, for example. Huda is born with those eyes. She didn't pay anything for these eyes, yet she got it. Like, for example, would you give me your eyes if I give you iPhone 16? Like, so valuable those eyes are, you didn't pay anything for it, and you wouldn't give it to me. So now the creator is saying that, okay, I gave it to you, yet I would like you to sell it back to me, and in return, again, I'm going to give you some eternal satisfaction. So this is really defining what perfection is for us.
So going back to the text we've been discussing, one example comes to my mind. So I gift something to a friend, or let's say my child. Yusuf buys a beautiful crane to Ali to play. And this crane has a purpose, right? The toy. It should be played with in a specific way. There's the perfect way of playing with this crane. You go and pretend play excavating, whatever the word is, some earth, carrying something, and then making a voice, like a sound, and this is the perfect way of playing with this crane, the car. Yusuf buys the car, like gives the car to Ali, but then Ali says, "Oh, this is an interesting matter. I will use it to step on it to reach to this, the light because I want to play with it. This is nothing but a stepping stone for me," he says, puts on it, and then step. And from his perspective, he's using it in the perfect way, the perfect height, let's say. And then he has some discussions with other friends. They say, "Oh, no, you should put this instead of that. It has a better height," and so on. They start discussing which is the best way to use to step on it, and then turn on the light. Right? This is their world. In their world, they're defining this is the best one. And now what happens? Yusuf sees them. What do you think he would feel? Disappointment. Right? Whoever gave this toy to you wanted you to use in a certain way because it would benefit you if you did it that way. It had all these functionalities you could enjoy, right? But within your world, you said, no, this is best for stepping to this light, and then another toy is best for reaching to this frame. The owner would be disappointed. You obviously didn't use it in the best way, right? From the owner's or gifter's perspective. So you can expand the list of examples. You have the computer. What is the best way of using this computer? To make some computations, write some articles, read some stuff, whatever. You can use the same laptop, if it is a laptop, as a tray, for instance. It's a way of using a laptop, right? You can use it to serve, where is Atik's beautiful tea around. But what would the one who gifted this laptop to you, or the Steve Jobs if he was alive, saw you doing that. But they're disappointed, ashamed even, and you wouldn't use it in the best way. There's a story in Turkey, a guy, I don't know if it's real or not, guy buys a Ferrari, okay? And then because the gas is too expensive, oil, he replaces the engine with, what is it called? Like a diesel, or not even diesel, like a
Liquid petrol gas.
Yeah. LPG. There's another type of gas that is for really, the cheap stuff, right? He replaces the engine. Ferrari hears about that and took back the car. Okay? There's a prestige of this car that you cannot do that, they said. This is not the best way of using that car, they said. So from whose perspective? The one who knows most about the thing would tell you how to use it best. Right? Hence, this narration about the ihsan, when we look at it, it's a dialogue between Prophet ﷺ and Jibril ﷺ, right? And the definition is there. Ihsan is acting or worshipping, but let's say acting in a way as if your creator sees you.
Not the other way around. You
Or
see your creator.
you see the creator. You can take it as feeling this responsibility of what is this for? What my body is created for? How am I supposed to use it? In what purpose? Right? Am I using my body as a tray or a proper laptop? That's the question. So some people would say you have to be best doctor in the world. This is the definition of the ihsan, they would say. But this definition is from, like you would narrate the same story as ihsan is acting in a way as if you are seeing your parents. That's the definition of ihsan, because your parents would care whether you are a doctor or not. But it is as if you are seeing your creator. Whoever made this body, whoever made this mind, what is the purpose from his perspective, which is the most encompassing perspective, that I should use my brain for? Answer of that would be ihsan, of using your brain, using your time to work in one way or another.
Okay. Is that enough or you have questions? You're good? Okay. Any other comments, questions? No? Okay. So let's start with today's text, inshallah. Who is going to read?
Oh, you didn't say where.
This is, if I can get the book, this is a few pages later than what we studied last time.
Still 17th word.
17th word, it's a text
Called supplication which occurred to me in Persian.
225, page number 225. The title is A Supplication Which Occurred to Me in Persian. So the original text was in Persian. The author translated it into Turkish, and now we are reading it in English. So it is the third derivation. And let's listen it from Sister Zareen.
Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum. A supplication which occurred to me in Persian. This supplication occurred to my heart in Persian and was therefore written in that language. It was first included in my published work, Hubab. And there's a note here. The supplication is included in the original together with an enlarged Turkish rendering, which is the basis of the translation here. O my sustainer, heedlessly not trusting in you, but in my own power and will, I cast an eye over the 6 aspects, searching for a cure for my ills. Alas, I could find no cure for them, and I understood it was being said to me, "Are your ills not sufficient as cure for you?" In heedlessness, I looked to pass time on my right to find solace, but I saw that yesterday appeared to be my father's grave, and past time as the huge tomb of all my forebears. It filled me with horror rather than consolation. Note here, belief shows that horrific vast grave to be a familiar and enlightened meeting and a gathering of friends. End of the note. Then I looked to the future on the left, but again I could find no cure. For tomorrow appeared as my grave, and the future as the vast tomb of my contemporaries and the forthcoming generations. It afforded not a feeling of familiarity, but one of fright. Note here, belief and the peace of belief shows that terrible, huge grave to be a feast of the most merciful and delightful palaces of bliss. Since no good appeared from the left either, I looked at the present day and I saw that it resembled a bier. It was bearing my desperately struggling corpse. And the note here, belief shows that bier to be a place of trade and a glittering guest house.
By the way, what's a beer? You know what's it?
I don't.
It's like a casket which they put the dead body into.
Thus, I could find no cure from this aspect either. So I raised my head and looked at the top of the tree of my life. But I saw that its single fruit was my corpse. It was looking down on me from the treetop. The note here says, belief shows the tree's fruit to be not the corpse, but the worn-out home of my spirit, which will manifest eternal life and is destined for everlasting happiness, from which it has departed in order to travel among the stars. End note. Despairing of that aspect too, I lowered my head. I looked and saw that the dust of my bones underfoot had mixed with the dust of my first creation. It afforded no cure, but added further pain to my ills. The note here says, belief shows the dust to be the door leading to mercy and a curtain before the halls of paradise. End note. I turned away from that too and looked behind me, where I saw a transient world without foundation, revolving and departing in the valleys of nothingness and the darkness of non-existence. It was no salve for my ills. It rather added the poison of horror and fright. The note here reads, belief shows the world revolving in darkness to consist of missives of the eternally besought one and pages of divine inscriptions, which, having completed their duties and expressed their meanings, have left their results in existence in their place. End note. Since I could see no good in that either, I switched my gaze to before me. I saw that the door of the grave stood open at the end of my road. The highway leading to eternity beyond it struck my gaze from afar. Note here, since belief shows the door of the grave to be open onto the world of light, and the road to lead to eternal happiness, it was both a salve for my ills and a cure. End note. Thus, rather than receiving consolation and a feeling of familiarity, I felt only horror and fear at these 6 aspects. And apart from the faculty of will, I had nothing in my hand with which to withstand them and act in the face of them. The note here reads, belief gives a document for relying on an infinite power in the place of the power of choice, which is like the smallest indivisible particle. Indeed, belief itself is a document. End note. But the human weapon called the faculty of will lacks power and its range is short, and it is inaccurate. It cannot create, and apart from acquiring, can do nothing. A note here reads, belief causes the faculty of will to be employed in God's name, and makes it sufficient before everything it may face. Like when a soldier employs his insignificant strength on account of the state, he can perform deeds thousands of times greater than his own strength. End note. It can neither penetrate the past nor discern the future, and in regard to my hopes and fears concerning these, was of no benefit. And then a note here reads, belief takes its reins from the hand of the animal body and hands them over to the heart and the spirit, and may therefore penetrate the past and the future. For the sphere of life of the heart and spirit is broad. End note. The arena of the faculty of will is brief, present time, and the passing present instant. Thus, despite all my needs and weakness, want and poverty, and my wretched state induced by the horrors and terrors arising from the 6 aspects, clearly written on the page of my being by the pen of power and included in my nature, were desires stretching to eternity and hopes spreading through eternity. Indeed, whatever there is in the world, there are samples of it in my being. I am connected to everything. It is for them that I am caused to work. The sphere of need stretches as far as the eye can see. In fact, wherever the imagination goes, the sphere of need extends that far. There is need there too. Whatever man lacks, he is in need of. That which he does not have, he needs. And what he lacks is endless. But then the extent of his power extends only as far as his short arm reaches. That means my want and needs are as great as the world, whereas my capital is as infinitesimal as an indivisible particle. So, of what use is the faculty of will worth 2 pence in relation to my needs, which encompass the world and can only be obtained for millions of liras? They cannot be bought with it and cannot be gained by it, in which case one has to search for another solution. The solution is this: to forego one's own will and leave matters to the divine will, to give up one's own power and strength and seeking refuge in the power and strength of Almighty God, to adhere to true reliance on Him. O my sustainer, since the way to be saved is this, I forego my own will in your way, and I give up my egotism. Then your grace may take me by the hand out of compassion for my impotence and weakness, and your mercy may take pity on my need and indigence and be a support for me, and open its door for me. Yes, whoever finds the boundless sea of mercy surely does not rely on his own mirage-like will and choice. He does not abandon mercy and have recourse to his will. Alas, we have been deceived. We supposed the life of this world to be constant, and so have lost everything. Yes, this passing life is but a sleep. It passes like a dream. This frail life flies like the wind and departs. Arrogant man who relies on himself and supposes he will live forever is doomed to die. He passes swiftly. The world, too, man's house, tumbles into the darkness of non-existence. Hopes do not last, while pains endure in the spirit. Since the reality is this, come, my wretched soul, which yearns for life, is enamored of the world, and afflicted with endless hopes and pains, awake and come to your senses. As the firefly relies on its own minuscule light and remains in the boundless darkness of the night, and since it does not rely on itself, the honey bee finds the sun of daytime and gazes on its friends, the flowers, gilded with the sunlight. If you rely on yourself and your being and your ego, you will resemble the firefly. Whereas if you sacrifice your transient being in the way of the Creator who gave it to you, you will find an unending light of existence. So sacrifice it, for your being is a trust given to you for safekeeping. Moreover, it is His property, and it is He who bestowed it. So do not scorn it, sacrifice it unhesitatingly. Sacrifice it so that it will be made permanent. For negation of a negation is an affirmation. That is, if non-being is not, there is being. If non-being is negated, existence comes into being. The all-generous Creator buys his own property from you and gives you the high price of paradise in return. Also, he looks after that property well for you and increases its value, and he will return it to you in both enduring and perfect form. O my soul, do not delay. Do this trade which is profitable in 5 respects, and be saved from 5 losses. Make a 5-fold profit all at once.
Jazakallah khair. Alhamdulillah, it's a beautiful topic. So overall, he starts talking about his troubles in life in general. He mentions it as my ills, but everybody has troubles in life. And then he talks about looking at 6 directions. He was seeking for some remedy for his problems. And then we can go through that, but not finding remedy in any of those 5 directions, like past, future, up, down, like all these directions. Then he looked at himself, and in himself he found something which might be of a little bit of hope, which is his will. Then he said, my will, although this is the only thing at my hand, it's so incapable of doing anything. Then, fast forward, he said that there's one solution, that is foregoing that will in exchange of seeking refuge in mercy of the Creator. Of course, I am just using the terminology in there. He explains what all these means. How does one forego their will and whatnot? We need to discuss all these. But in a nutshell, this is what the topic looks like from far. Any comments, any questions before we dive in? No comments, no questions? You're all good? Okay. What do you think about the 6 aspects that he was looking for? Because the way he looked at them, he says, this is how with heedlessness, what it looks like, and this is how it looks like with the perspective of Iman. So he was comparing the two. The footnotes were how the same thing looks from the lens of Iman, and the other one was how it looks like with heedlessness. And he also, well, even maybe before that, he made a very bold statement. Are your troubles not sufficient as cure for you? Like there were troubles in my life. I was considering them as troubles and trying to get rid of them. And he says, actually, those troubles are your cures. They are there to cure you. But you are taking them as troubles, which was an interesting statement. Like you're having issues with your boss, you hate the way they're handling you. And then for this statement, it sounds like, oh yeah, you had some other problems. This is why you are given this problem, so that you realize, so that it cures you. Those troubles are there to cure you. In a sense, this is, I guess, how we read it. Let's put it on the side, and then let's try to see what he means by that. So he's going to open it up. I'll just read and expect your comments, okay? I'm reading it for a second time because it was a long text.
So
Otherwise, I wouldn't, right?
it was too long, so then you will read it again, so it will be even longer.
Double the length. Nobody is talking, so. Sister Jared, do you have comments? No?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
No, I was just trying to figure out where you're reading the public report. I was just trying to get.
Oh, it is.
It's a long note.
It is the very first paragraph. At the end of the very first paragraph, so, O my sustainer, heedlessly not trusting in you, but in my own power and will. I guess this is really summarizing where the problem is. I don't trust in my sustainer, but I trust in my own will and my own power. And then he says, realizing that nothing cures me, are your ills not sufficient as cure for you? In heedlessness, I looked to past time on my right to find solace, but I saw that yesterday appeared to be my father's grave, and past time as the huge tomb of all my forebears. It filled me with horror rather than consolation. Do you ever look at the past and try to find consolation in the past? This is what we Turks always do. We have been on 3 continents. Like, our history is so great. I mean, nowadays we are losers, but don't look at today. Like, up until 400 years before, you should have seen us back then. Like, we are seeking some sort of consoling in the past.
What's so funny? Well, it's,
Oh, there was a bug.
okay.
I have it open, don't worry.
It's not about our past, otherwise.
No, don't worry, I respect it.
My grandfather, he was a very respected person in his youth, but of course, aging and all his friends died and whatnot. So he retires and he's now at home. He doesn't see his friends. Whenever we were sitting next to him, he would start talking about his memories. So much so that my grandmother would get so much annoyed and saying that, I started telling the same stories, let the kids free and whatnot. So I guess we have a tendency to seek it's like some consolation in the past. But then we realize those that came before me also died. My past is dead. So, and I'm going to die anyways. Belief shows that horrific West crave to be a familiar and enlightened meeting and a gathering of friends. Belief shows that they didn't die. Even those moments didn't die. Yes.
I'm not sure if this is completely related, but I was thinking about sort of in the Quran, there is mention of following what your forefathers have done, like following what your forefathers have done before you. But there's also I feel like there's also a contrast with where it mentions sort of like, for example, in the beginning of Surah Al-Baqarah, the description of the description of the believers as those who follow what was revealed to those who came before them. So I feel like maybe it's related to the text here. Like, sometimes I end up trying to, I feel like both are related to like the past, but how belief changes how we view the past. So in one aspect, we're trying to like learn from history, for example. Like, I often hear that we need to look back at past events and learn from them so we can apply them to our present. And then that doesn't really end up happening. It just kind of seems to cycle. But then with belief, it's not really looking to the past in the sense that we have to follow what, like, we take the past figures, whether it's like family or historical figures or myself even. It's not that we take them as authorities, but they were given something that I need myself. So rather it's more of like it said, something that's familiar to me, but isn't me trying to rely on the people themselves from the past. If that makes sense.
I used to think about this with some friends, non-Muslim friends. Like that friend, for example, invited us for his birthday, and he was a very talented cook. So he cooked, I don't know, 5, 10 different types of things. He even made sushi, and he would take pictures and whatnot. So back then we were having a conversation. Okay, we do this celebration, but then this celebration is going to just, okay, we enjoy for 2, 3, 4 hours, and then it's gone. At best, we take pictures of it. He was saying that, well, but those memories, I will enjoy them. I will look at those pictures and I will enjoy those memories. I think this is a way how we look back and try to find consolation in the past. Even if I am in pain today, I was happy 3 months ago or 5 years ago or something. Or even we can just make it a little dramatic as he does here. I had a friend, the friend is dead now, but I remember that dead friend and say, oh, but we had so much fun or good times with this friend. So is it really giving me consolation? Like, if I'm going to be honest about myself, looking with this lens of ignorance though, because since he is making a black and white comparison between Iman and like lack of Iman, how much do I enjoy with those memories? Do they really give me the consolation that I am in need of? Or they are making me more upset? Do they ease my ills? Because the past is gone. Those friends that are dead, they are dust from that perspective. If I take it as friends. If I take it as the birthday party is gone. The joys that I sensed then is also gone. Like the pie that I ate is definitely gone. The taste of the pie is definitely gone. Maybe a few jokes that were cracked back then, I remember and try to laugh at it again. But it's not even becoming fun because after a certain age, especially as you tend to get old, then even those moments are giving you pain because it reminds you of how fast you are coming to the end. Yesterday, a student's mom and younger sister attended, came to visit to my office. And then they said, she is born at 2010. She's a high school kid, like almost of my height. At 2010, I came to the US. Like, this is 50 years ago. A 15-year-old is that tall? Like, it was like a wake-up call to me. Life is passing by. She is as old as my PhD education, life, and everything. So I am getting old, and it's not joke anymore. Like, when I was young, it was a joke, but it's no joke after a certain point. So looking at the past is really making you feel like this after a certain point. Maybe still you're young, some of you. It's not sounding as dark, but Arsalan is, I guess, is about to start feeling that since he's stepping into the older territory. But yeah, Iman shows it as a enlightened meeting and a gathering of friends. Actually, this is one of the things that I was suggesting to Drexel MSA for this term, to have some sort of reach out to people, since there's an interest in Islam nowadays. Like, what's wrong with those Palestinians that they are so much forbearing with whatever is happening to them, as if they're not afraid of death? Belief in afterlife, in the sense of certainty in afterlife, such a strong perspective in life, that even if you are living in so miserable conditions, or not even living, you're dying, you can bear with it. Like, people watching it says, how come, like, what's wrong with these people? This is insane, inhumane, really, to be able to stand before this. Nobody would do this. Actually, I have friends from different backgrounds, and they say, like, for what? For earth? For land? Forget about it. Just make the new generation live. Like, let the youth, let them leave the country, go wherever they want, because he was saying that the parents are forcing the youth to stay there. Like, give new life to young people. Life is more important, was my friend's perspective. If it was for land, yes. But those people are beyond land because there's afterlife. Like, such a perspective which changes everything.
Okay, I think I'm a little lost, but are we saying that if the past is providing ease for you, like, because I'm trying to think of the contrast that's trying to be presented in a very concise way, but I'm not understanding the contrast itself. So so are we saying, like, if you're finding ease in the past, reconsider, or what's the other alternative that's being presented? And then if it is what I just stated, what about the fact that, like, we remember, yes, like, your relatives die, whatever, everybody's dying, but you're actually, like, you remember them, whether it's in dua or something. So it's not looking at the past. I don't think we're saying is bad. So what are we saying about the past, I guess?
So is looking at the past solving my problems? This is the question. And my ills are, again, not to mix that. Sometimes, like, when trying to understand the text, we shouldn't use our Iman perspective to look at the past. He is distinguishing the two, looking at the past without the lens of Iman versus with the lens of Iman. If I look at without the lens of Iman, which means I'm looking at it purely from a materialist perspective, whatever is in yesterday is gone. Let it be a relative, let it be me in yesterday. It's all gone. There's just a faint memory of them. And I'm also going to the same direction. So they're not helping me anymore. Those memories do not help me anymore. So it's just reminding me of, like, a graveyard. Like, for example, how much there's this graveyard in Woodland Cemetery. Like, what would you expect from the Woodland Cemetery other than greenery? Like, it doesn't give you anything because all the people in there are gone. They are non-existing. So the past is bringing me nothing for the moment from a materialist point of view. They're gone. So how am I going to, or if I go back with, let's say we were having this conversation with my brother-in-law. We studied university at the same time. He was smarter than me. He still is. But like, he scored better than all the exams and whatnot. He was saying that, oh, Yusuf, back then, I used to read a text once and understand it. Now I read it 3 times to understand the same thing. So looking at the past, oh, I was so good. You're not so good anymore. Like, the good you is dead. The smart you is no more. And being proud of it is not helping you at the moment either. You're a person who has this weak memory at the moment, who is less smart, and what you were in the past doesn't help you at the moment. It gives you even pain because it's like a graveyard of you. A smarter you is dead, and you are just mourning before its death. I was lively as Ali, I would say, maybe. I mean, supposedly. But now, looking at myself, I am like a gravestone, if you like, as Nursi also puts it. I am like a gravestone of 40 Yusufs that are already dead. Every year, he says, you die because you get renewed. And the moment you are is like a tombstone, a gravestone of all the past Yusufs. So does it give you any sort of consolation that you were so good in the past? If anything, it gives you pain. I'm not as good anymore. Mr. Zareen has a comment.
I guess I was thinking, what about situations where maybe there's a moment in my past where I can't think of a specific example, but let's say I messed something up. And then in the present day or in the future, I end up in the same situation, and what I learned from the past benefits me in whatever similar situation I might be in. So I feel like there are moments where what I've learned before can like helps me. I guess is that the attitude that is that where like belief like helps with like viewing the past, or is that also
It's
just
not necessarily. I don't think he's going that specific. You're right, because if you're a believer or unbeliever, you benefit from past experience. That's granted. But since he's referring to my ills, my troubles in life, just look at your troubles in life. I mean, let's try to get immersed in the picture that he is drawing in here. You're struggling for something in life. It might be, you're questioning, why am I doing this to myself? Why am I in this PhD program? Like day in, day out, you ask that question to yourself. Or how did I end up in this postdoc position? And still I am chasing for the visa. They're not even giving me green card or whatever. Like, and I am living below poverty line. Like what? Okay, am I being too harsh about the realities? Like this is what that's what I have been questioning for myself for so long. And everybody has some sort of a troubles in their lives. And when this happens, really, we would like to find some sort of a purpose and meaning or something that I can cling to so that it becomes bearable. This is what the author is trying to do. You find yourself in some sort of a trouble in life, and you say, oh, can I find something that I can refer to in the past and say, oh, no, at least I was like this. No, like, okay, I have been this degree, that degree, this title. It's not giving me that satisfaction. They're all dead.
I think challenge become like the question maybe is, okay, understanding this is relatively easier, but how belief changes anything. So should we take belief as learning from your past, or should we take belief as something else? And my understanding from text, going with your example, and this happens to me for a long time now. When I work with very talented people, when I work with very talented people, and I see them solving some problems, and I'm trying to solve it, and I realize that no, I cannot do it as quick as they do. So I have this problem of, let's say, not being so good anymore, right? With your example, I look at my past, and I do this seriously. I look at my past, I say, oh, during my PhD, I was able to solve even more complex problems, right? People would even praise me for that. I took such and such, the very difficult classes and get grades, like a highest grades, whatever. I would try to remind myself. But then what happens in the same moment, you say, yeah, but you are not there anymore. It doesn't belong to you anymore. It died, went away, right? It gives you this pain because now the contrast is even bigger. Because otherwise you would say, okay, I'm not that good and they are good, and you would be done with it. But you even say, no, I was even better. What happened? Right? The pain is even bigger now. With the belief, I think, with the light of the belief, what it means with the belief, asking the question where the things come from, right? That's the question of belief. La ilaha illallah. Now I look at my past and I question, who was it that's solving this problem really? Problems, getting these grades, etc. If it's just the meat in my brain, like in my skull, I should be able to take some, I don't know, nutritional supplements, make it as fresh as before. It wouldn't work, I know. You question, who is it that, was showing this success, the manifestation of success, to whom it belonged to. And when you realize it was given to you, it was not yours to begin with. It was given to you. Why? Because you needed it at that time. You needed it. Creator hoped, or whoever gave, let's not call creator, let's not, you be biased. Whoever gave it to you at that moment, hoped, it seems, that you use it properly in the best way, ihsan, right? And you didn't. You claim ownership over it. You collected all the praise. Now it is taken away from you. And as text says, this is mercy. Your ill is enough for you to find the answers. I say, okay, I was doing wrong. That's my ill. Now, when I realize this, it was given to me because of my needs, etc. Now I look at my current situation with this light. I say, okay, I need something to be solved. And the same source who gave my mind before, like the sharp mind, gave me these people instead to solve similar problems, and they are solving it. It doesn't matter who's solving it, really. There is a need and the sustenance. The same equation as before, through the light of belief, to whom it belongs to. Right? I say, okay, I'm happy now. Whoever who used to sustain me all these years, he's continuing, keeping sustaining me again with different means. Just like before, he was sustaining this not baby old girl with milk. That was the first type of sustenance, right? Or even before that, through the placenta, etc., right? Through the bloodstream. That was the type of the sustenance. She was born, it became milk. And then it was taken away from her. The mom said, no, I will not give you milk anymore. Because the feelings of the mom was taken away as well. She didn't want to anymore. It was not a pleasure anymore. Why? Because a new sustenance was in place. She learned how to eat food, right? The type of sustenance changing, but it keeps going. Through the lens of belief, I realize this when I look at my past. Otherwise, past becomes pain. With this lens, it becomes a realization of ongoing, everlasting sustenance.
Okay, so then he looks to future. He can find no cure. And tomorrow appeared as his grave, and the future as the vast tomb of my contemporaries. Like the future is yet another grave. Do you feel like, okay, I was trying to achieve things, but even if I achieve it, I die. Even as a nation, we achieve something, we die. So what? Like it really comes to the question of so what? Sometimes I'm feeling like that. I'm trying to, let's say, save money so that I buy a house. Then I say, well, those who have house, they die and they give this house as inheritance to somebody else. And those who inherit the house are not really appreciative of that inheritance. Babies. As much as their owners, first-hand owners, care about it. So then I say, really, I am putting so much into this, buying the house and whatnot. Is it worth it really? Or am I putting more than what it deserves? It really comes to that sort of a feeling. I don't know if this happens to you guys, but whenever I go to suburbs, as I tell to my wife, I totally get into a different mood because those people are living in a setup which I eventually would like to get. So, okay, they are there. Are they satisfied? Probably they're looking for something more. And they are dying as well. So I say, then,
No need to buy it.
I mean, is it worth my worries if even when I get there, there's no satisfaction? Because even one of the suburbs is there, houses this side, graveyard that other side, as we are going in the main line, as we go to a friend's house. After buying the house, I'm going to buy another house from here a few years later. So is my worries justified? I guess this is the point. Otherwise, yes. I mean, eventually you will need to live in a house or whatnot. But the contrast we are trying to make here is with this heedless worldview, I am chasing buying a house or this and that. And it eventually, either in the past it goes to grave or in the future it goes to grave. So it's not other than easing myself and not thinking about it. If you think about it, it's not worth it. But then the life becomes absurd. Then what am I supposed to do? And he's saying that the lens of Iman is going to change things. So this is the part that we need to reconsider. How do I put lens of Iman into buying a house? How do I put lens of Iman into having kids or getting a degree? That is the main issue that I guess we need to address here. So he looked at the present day and he saw that it resembled a casket. It was bearing my desperately struggling corpse. The moment itself, he sees it as like a very constrained small casket in which the dead body is put. So he says, from that lens, it really is, the life apparently is the moment, and even that moment is so tight. And as if my body is just desperately struggling corpse. In here, in the original, he is using the term, a person that's about to pass away. What's it called? Right, life and death in that tiny. Is there a word for that? Limbo. Something like hospice care, like when you like cut the throat of an animal, the animal is just trying to cling to life. So he is saying as if the moment that you live in is like this. What you call as life is simply death's doorstep, because every moment is just going to death. Every past moment in your past is dying. So you're just living at the edge of death in a sense. So that's why he resembles the moment as like a casket and your body is in there. But he says that casket is a place of trade and a glittering guest house. Actually, at the very last paragraph of the text, he also referred to that verse, God buys your property. So the moment is a trade. Like you're at this moment, if you look at it from an Iman perspective, that casket is not a casket, but it's a place of trade. You're here to make a trade. And it's a guest house. It's not the moment you live is not a, resting place. It's a guest house. As Prophet ﷺ also mentioned, it's a guest. The worldly life is just a guest, as if you are staying under a shade of a tree. Then he looks down, he sees the dust, the earth. Belief shows that this dust to be the door leading to the mercy and a curtain before the halls of paradise. And then what was it? Okay. Any comments, any questions? Nothing so far? Okay, so I'm reading the next two paragraphs really quick. I turned away from that too and looked behind me, where I saw a transient world without foundation, revolving and departing in the valleys of nothingness and the darkness of non-existence. It was no salve for my ills. It rather added the poison of horror and fright. And it goes like this. Any comments? Otherwise, I will continue with the next part.
In this part, is the author talking about the present? Because we were in the past, then is this part the present? Then he's turning, looking behind him, but like in his current.
So which paragraph?
I
you mean?
turned away from that too and looked behind me where I saw a transient world without foundation. So the first is to look behind and recognize there's nothing without the belief portion, and then then he looks at his current state to see if there's something better maybe here. But looking behind implies it's the past again. So
Like the way he used left and right as past and future. And then he looked at himself the moment. Then what he did was he looked down. For down, he used as a metaphor for earth. And he said the earth is where I came from in terms of dust and where I go to, materially speaking. So he referred to the materiality when he referred to earth. I said, if I look at earth from Iman point of view, it is a door to mercy, because from earth, mercifully, all the sustenance is being created from me. So this is why earth is a door to mercy. If you look at what is being created to you, what is being delivered to you from earth, this is how we realize mercifulness of our creator. So many sustenance are being given to us from earth. And also he uses it for the flip side as well. After you die, you're going to be put back to this earth. Like you're buried there, but still it is a veil before the mercy of the creator, because he's not going to keep you there to sleep forever. It is like a door to eternal life. So he used the earth in two senses. One is where your grave is, the other one is where your sustenance is coming from. But in both cases, it alludes to, or it's a way, it's a place where you can find mercy of the creator. This is why when somebody dies, we say, Rahimahullah, like death is reminding us of mercy of the creator. This is what he mean by down. But now in the part that you mentioned, he's looking at his back. So, I mean, in this metaphoric representation, we can also refer to back as our past, but since he used past for right and past for left and future for right, he's using his backside, looking at his back. He refers to the world. He says, what did I left behind? I left behind a world which keeps happening despite I am not there. And he says that world itself is a world without foundation, revolving and departing in valleys of nothingness. The life keeps happening. But for what purpose? Like the world itself becomes with this lens of, what was it? Heedlessness. With the lens of heedlessness, what is happening in the world? Like even if you look at it today, just look at in the human sphere, so many injustices are happening. Somebody is inventing a rocket apparently to go to the Mars, but the same rocket lands on other people's head. Like you say, what is progress? What is like going, are we really progressing forward, progressing backward? what we consider as success, what we consider as failure. World is really having this super complex relationships that are happening, but none of them are really giving the satisfaction to my troubles in life. Still, I'm getting old. Still, I am dying. And none of them answers my basic substantial human needs, which is I need everything. I am not okay with dying, but I am dying. So relative to me, the rest of the world is just whatever is happening in the world is not helping me. I think this is what he is alluding to there. This is why he says the world belief in the footnote, belief shows the world revolving in darkness to consist of missives of the eternally besought one and pages of divine inscriptions, which, having completed their duties and expressed their meanings, have left their results in existence in their place. Because it's not only me that is dying, seasons are dying, even, I don't know, mountains, everything is crumbling into dust in this existence. Actually, the part that we studied last week was questioning that. Some butterfly is born, just very beautiful, very delicate, lives for one day and dies. A sheep, they don't live that long, but the new sheep are super funny, super excited. They live for a few years and then they die. So everything comes and goes. So what is this? Where is this going? Like, as I am dying, everything else is also dying. So if I look at life with this heedlessness, it just adds more fire to my troubles. I says, if you look at it as because from Iman perspective, you're reading it as a meaningful text that expresses a meaning. Like, for example, when you're teaching, you keep writing to the board. Once you write and students take their notes, what do? You erase it. You don't say that, oh, I put a lot of effort, it's so beautifully written, and a lot of information is written in here, I cannot erase it. You, of course, erase it because you say that the purpose is fulfilled, it's recorded somewhere, and then I can erase it and write something new. So with the lens of Iman, you will say that every new creation is being shown to multiple observers to express their meaning relative to their maker. Once this purpose is fulfilled, they are going to be erased, something new is going to be put. That beautiful kitten died, but it expressed its meaning. It expressed the meaning of, I have a merciful creator. To observers, since the kitten did its job, the creator says, okay, it's time to erase the kitten and express a different meaning with another cat. With the lens of Iman, this is how you would see it. And then finally, he says, since he could see no good in looking the back, he looked at the future, or before him, sorry. I saw that the door of the grave stood open at the end of my road. The highway leading to eternity beyond it struck my gaze from afar. Since belief shows the door of the grave to open unto the world of light and the road to lead to eternal happiness, it was both a salve for my ills and a cure. To heedlessness, to the perspective of heedlessness, grave is the biggest enemy. But for the perspective of Iman, grave is the best friend. Because grave teaches me a lot of things. Grave reminds me that nothing is from me. I was being provided. Actually, in other place, Nursi gives the example of you see in a river, as the river is just going through like this, there's going to be bubbles that are appearing on the surface of the river. And on that bubbles, you will observe reflections of sun, right? When the bubble bursts, the reflection of sun disappears. Let's imagine a setup in which you're enjoying the reflections of sun over the surface of the river. But as the bubbles burst, your joy is being harmed because you were observing and enjoying the reflection of bubbles. But as the bubbles burst, you're getting upset. It says actually the death of these bubbles are good because they make you turn your head to, oh, those lights were not belonging to bubbles actually, because initially you might thought that the light that I see on the surface of the river is inside the bubbles. But a bubble bursts, the next bubble also have it, which makes you question, oh, maybe it was not then belonging to the bubble because the bubble died, the new one also have it. So death of bubble is good for you because it makes you raise your head and, oh, it was coming from the sun actually. The reflection that I loved didn't belong to the bubble. It was a reflection of a sun above. Likewise, you observe a beautiful kitten, you observe a merciful mom, you observe a kind friend, or whatever in your life, you enjoy it, and then it disappears, it bursts, it dies. But then you see another one replaces it. That death is a good thing for you because it reminds you that, oh, actually, then the mercy that I enjoyed in the previous one was not belonging to it either because it died away, it went away. Here's another one with the same mercy. There must be a sun of mercy above all who is reflecting on these. So this is why death is a cure for my problems with the lens of Iman. Otherwise, death is my enemy because it really separates me from what I love. With the lens of Iman, it is just opposite. If there are any other questions, comments? So I'm trying to summarize everything we discussed and also the rest of the text, just to tell myself what is the summary, like a core in a nutshell. This text is telling me. So it seems that text is saying that from one perspective, let's forget about the details, left, right, whatever. But from one perspective, a perspective that we all fall into, like always find ourselves in, this life, accept it or not, like confess it or not, is miserable. The human condition is terrible. There's no ground for human from one perspective. And he says this is the mainstream perspective that you will find yourself. And every time you have some problems, it will remind you how terrible in a condition you are. And you will not find any escape from it, he says. Then I ask myself, like, but I don't find myself in such a terrible, miserable situation most of the time. I mean, do I have to wait for, the old ages, which is so far from me, right? Yeah. So, like, what William will do? He's a young, restless, athletic person. Then this text is not for him, maybe. But I think we like when we again honestly look at ourselves, we always try to find some plays, games, as the very beginning of this text, the ayahs were suggesting, the worldly life
the life of work is nothing but a play and amusement. We find things for ourselves to amuse for a moment, right? This young person, for instance, would say, okay, I play basketball, right? This is my amusement. And he fooled himself. Nothing wrong with basketball, because I would say the same thing for Yusuf. He's fooling himself with teaching, right? I'm fooling myself with research, whatever. I try to find some value there, usually made up value. The best example, I could think of was, because it's so clear with children, when Bushra is so bored, miserable, and cannot find anything, so upset, she comes and asks me for challenges. She says, Daddy, give me a challenge. And I say, okay, stand on this thing that, not easy to stand for 15 seconds. She does, we applaud, and she's so happy. She says, okay, give me another challenge. This really happens like all the time. I give another challenge, and she keep asking for it because she needs it, right? For amusement. So with her, it's so clear. When we get older, we start giving these challenges different names and fool ourselves that as if they have any more value than standing on something for 15 seconds. You can observe this with yourself and everybody else. You can see that how everybody, including yourself, how everybody is really on a very shaky ground in their lives. That you shouldn't touch it. Otherwise, they will, they fall. I was talking to a PhD student, and we're talking about some stuff. I don't remember the details. She's in psychology. And she starts talking about some recent news. At that time, it was recent. Somebody drive with a car to a shopping center or something, like a crowd, and killed a few people in somewhere in the US. I don't remember. She was talking about it, psychopathology, whatever of it. And as like everybody else, she's on a shaky ground with her beliefs, right? Just one question enough to destroy. I say, why do you think he shouldn't do it? Right? Why not? I mean, is there any reason other than it's against the laws, ethics, whatever made up rules? Why? Think about all your education that you've been through, what they taught you about, how we evolve, how we have our senses, desire, wishes, etc. If this is true, can you tell me any reason that he wouldn't drive into the crowd? She was kind of angry, pausing a few minutes, and then saying, oh, Birkan, yeah, you are right, but let's change the topic. It's because, if she continues questioning things, a very simple thing, she realized that she wouldn't find a ground for herself. But she has to finish her PhD. Right? She still has to say that this guy has a problem. And nobody will question, of course. She knows that. So what I'm doing is just out of let's say the ordinary. Anyway, so we see ourselves in the same situation in every occasion. Just look at yourself. So shaky. An author is referring to that, my understanding. With every ill, every problem in your life, you will look, if you look, of course, if you question. Because if you don't question, you keep fooling yourself And you will say, oh, no, 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 my friends will help me. I don't know, my culture will help me. Something, I will take some drugs and it will help me. You will fool yourself. But if you question, he says, you will realize that you will find darkness and nothing more. From a certain perspective, which is what? If you rely on yourself, and just like relying on yourself, relying on everybody else. Everybody relying on themselves. From this perspective, nothing but darkness, you will realize. And then he says, but it doesn't have to be that. Instead of realizing yourself, rely on yourself, rely on the one whoever has been given all these things to you. You will try to rely on your mind, darkness. Instead, he says, who gave you this mind? Ask this question, and then you will realize that whoever is given this mind to me, he's giving out of mercy. It's coming from this infinite power, infinite knowledge, infinite the mercy. You will realize, and it will lead you not to darkness, but eternal bliss, he says. To me, that's, the summary of text. If you rely on yourself, and if you are honest to yourself, if you are questioning, you would realize you are on shaky ground, nowhere to turn, no left, no right, no back, no front, and you will fall. But if you ask the question, who gave it to me? Why? Then you will find your the brightness, he says.
We have a very challenging question from online, but we have only 1 minute. I will read the question so that inshallah we can start from here next week. So far, the text that we studied was showing the picture of our troubles and how Iman is suggesting a solution. And then also he will talk about what my heedless perspective suggests as a solution, which is my will and my power. But we will start the text from here, and you can take references to the page number and whatnot. Inshallah, let's keep studying the text, because it's really, as much as we immerse ourselves in this text, we will get more. The question is from Sister Munni Begum. She says, numerous dying children from hunger and violence in Gaza trouble me immensely and make me helpless. These deaths seem to be senseless to me and does not help me view death as a mercy. So let's think about that problem and how does the perspective of Iman is going to help with this, and how a heedless perspective would take this, how Iman suggests an alternative view for this. And where do we stand? How can we benefit from our Iman for that? Because we all share Sister Munni's perspective on that, I guess, to a certain extent. And also Muhammad Qadir has a comment. He says, I'm failing to understand how does the will come into the picture. Like I'm relying on the Creator, but at the end of the day, I have to pray. I have to make that decision. However much I pray, isn't it up to me to make that decision? Or relying on the Creator just change my perspective? That's also a very valuable question. Inshallah, we didn't get to that part yet. So far, we talked about the trouble that we are in. Inshallah, next week, let's start from here, where he says, it looks like in this perspective of heedlessness, all that is at my hand is nothing but my choice. And I'm relying on my choices to make changes. And actually, this is how it is with people. Be the change that you want to see in the universe, or like all those catchy words that you know. So inshallah, let's start from here next week. So it's like a cliffhanger.
Can I say one sentence? Is it homework? For Sister Mengu, you said, right? Munni, sorry. When she says she's very discomforted with all these debts, let's, for all of us, the homework, we are all, feel discomfort. The question is, as we said a few minutes ago, who or what? Who gave you this discomfort? Is it you that you create? You just look at the death of the children and say that I don't like it? Is this the case? Or this dislike you found it there inside you? And you should ask, who created, gave existence to this dislike? I think that we can take as a homework.
So inshallah, let's remember the page number. We have been going through page number 225, 226. So inshallah, we will continue from here next week. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم من الحمد لله رب العالمين الفاتحة